What's going on, everybody? It's TheNidien. We got Military Monday episode 6, and we're going to be talking about the M9. I know it's been a few weeks. I happened to throw 2 weeks worth of editing out the window on accident, and you're going to have that busy. So, what I want to talk to you guys about the M9, my experience as being able to use one as a machine gunner. And when I was in, all, staff NCOs, COs, officers, squad leaders, everybody carried the M9, but since 2007, that's been kind of switched around a little bit, and there was it was kind of put out there that all colonels and below and all staff NCOs will be issued an M4 carbine instead of the M9, and the M9s will go to colonel and above and Navy Petty Officer first classes and above. So that's been switched around a little bit. I'm not exactly sure, as I haven't really talked to a whole bunch of my Marine buddies that are still in recent events about this. But if any of you guys are in now and have seen that adaptation kind of take place, feel free to let me know and see what's going on. I know some units may or may not have that adaptation in place due to not getting M4 carbines in order to do that. So they may still have to kind of put the M9 out there. But what I wanted to do first was kind of go through a little bit of history about the M9, then go through a little bit of practical application that I kind of had to deal with and been able to qualify with and all that other good stuff. So basically, the Berretta M9 was adopted in 1985 by our military, and it was in a competition in the 80s to replace the M9A1 due to cost reasons. So before that, in the 70s, in an effort to make all 5 U.S. military branches weapons sync up, the First Service Small Arms Planning Commission was found in order to test a variety of guns, and the 9mm round was basically selected to comply with NATO standardization, and we know how all that works. So in the 80s, the Berretta 92S1 was chosen over a multitude of entries, from Colts to Smith & Wessons to Weathers, and it was going to be the go-to gun. However, in the 1984, the Army kind of challenged those results, and another competition was staged with updated entries from the same companies, Colt, Smith & Wesson, and Weathers, and the Berretta happened to win that competition too, and this is pretty much why. The Berretta 92F could survive exposure from -40 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit, being soaked in salt water, being dropped on concrete repeatedly, being buried in mud, sand, and snow, and in layman's terms, that means it's a highly reliable weapon. Also, it had an MRBF of 35,000 rounds, which means you could shoot 35,000 rounds before you started seeing some sort of failure within the weapon, and that's why the military chose this, because you're going to snow Korea, you're going to sand over in Afghanistan, Iraq, all that other good stuff, and you need to have a reliable weapon when you're crawling around, you're getting muddy and all this other stuff. You can't be pulling out your weapon all of a sudden, click, click, nothing goes on. So that's why this weapon was chosen. And then in 2006, the M9 was upgraded to the M9A1, and what that did was basically added a Picatinny rail, and I may have said that wrong, so I apologize for that if I did. But what that does is allow for attachments such as lights, lasers, and other weapon accessories. And you say, well, when is the military going to use laser sights? Well, I use it quite a bit when you're doing night vision classes and you're firing with night vision on night vision ranges. You put a little laser on there, because when you lose all depth of vision. So when you bring say your M16 up, you bring your M9 up, there's a possibility you're going to crack yourself in the nose. You're really out of whack, and it's not fun. So those laser sights really help out. You can hit fire with them. You can just bring it up, get the laser sight on target, pop off a couple rounds, and be in a much better situation than trying to screw around with night vision goggles, because they're a real pain in the ass, to put it lightly. But what it also did was added a bevel magazine to allow for easier reloading, and that helped out quite a bit. But what it is the M9 is a short recoil semi-automatic single to double action pistol, which uses a 15-round staggered magazine with a reversible magazine release, so all you left-handers out there or right-handers out there can kind of switch it up, and I'm sure the left-handers out there can appreciate it, because not a lot of stuff is built for left-handed people, and that's just the way it is. It's one of those things. I'm not left-handed myself, but I have a lot of left-handed friends in the military, and they were always bitching and complaining about something, so it was good to see that they kind of allowed that, and hopefully more weapons kind of follow through with that, because there are a lot of left-handed people out there, despite reports of them being witches. But what they did with the M9 was basically they had to go through some design flaws to kind of get it all in sync, because why else would you even bother with it if you can't get it all in sync? So all parts are 100% interchangeable to simplify maintenance across large government organizations. Also, they modified the front trigger guard so you could use finger support as aiming. They hard chrome the barrel to prevent corrosion. They also recurve the forward grip to add aiming support as well. So basically they put a lot of time and effort into this M9 to make it a really reliable weapon, to make it on target, and just be a very, very good weapon for the United States military. Now, when we went into practical applications, I didn't get to fire it a lot per se, like out in the field. We didn't do a lot of exercises with it. We did a lot of room clearing and stuff like that, but for the most part, you're still going to use your M16, and the M9 is kind of like, if as a machine gunner, an oh shit situation, like somebody's up on top of you, because you got your machine gun, for Christ's sakes, and you're going to be able to mow a lot of people down for that. If you got to pull out your pistol, you're in a lot of trouble, and that's basically just for real close quarter situations. And again, officers are going to have one around, squad leaders are going to have one around, but they're also going to have their M16, M4 carbine, whatever weapon their unit's using at the time. Now, when I was on the range, you're going to be firing from, 25 meters, and you're going to be doing a lot of double taps, which there in play is where that double action comes back. You cock the hammer back twice, and then you can double tap. It's a real quick trigger pull the first time, and then you got a full trigger pull the second time, one in the chest, one in the head. And the thing with an M9 is it doesn't have windage, like your M16, and I'm sure most of you would realize that, but each M9 is different. If somebody comes up and hands you their M9, you're going to have to aim different. One M9, you may have to aim up and to the left of the target. The next M9, you may below and to the right. So it was really weird just getting handed an M9 that you haven't been played with and saying, here, go qualify with this on the range, because it can turn out really bad for somebody. They can spend a lot of rounds trying to get their the situation taken care of and getting on target, and you only get so many rounds. So a lot of kids were kind of thrown off under the bus when it came to that type of situation. It was kind of one of those unfortunate things. We got kind of rushed through it. But a lot of people, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and they're always asking, how come, the military used to use a Magnum 45. Well, yes, they did used to use the Magnum 45, and there's a few reasons why, they switched around with that. Because if you're in a house that's not made of concrete, say you're doing a bunch of room clearing in an apartment building somewhere and the walls aren't concrete, and you get into a firefight, well, those rounds from the Magnum are going to go, through the wall, and there's a possibility that, they could go through a semi-thick wall of cement, and you don't want to be shooting your buddy in the head or blowing his arm off in the room next to you because you got in a firefight in this room and they're over in this room. So it's one of those things that it's got a lot of power and a lot of oomph behind it. It's pretty much a one-shot kill, but at the same time, it got into a lot of bad situations, and a lot of people ended up getting hurt simply due to the power of the weapon, and it was became a little bit unpractical for certain uses. And that's just the way it is. You can't be running in. It'd be like me going in and doing room clearing with my machine gun instead of the M16 and just spraying and praying and having rounds fly all over the place. I'm shooting through the ceiling. I may be hitting the guys on the floor above me. I'm hitting guys 3 to 4 rooms down in an apartment building, and you just can't have that. It's just one of those things. Not to mention, you start lighting off a machine gun in a 10 by 10 room, and there happens to be hostages in there that you need to be taken out. Again, you're going to take everybody with you, and that's just the way it is. Hostages, civilians, bad guys, your buddies, everybody's going to be just cleared out of that room. This isn't Rambo where he throws up 2 M60s and he's blowing off, 1,000 rounds in the middle of nowhere and just lighting up and things are exploding. We got to step back from the Rambo movies, the, Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and all that other good stuff. On the flip side, though, as a machine gunner, when you're carrying around your machine gunner and you're the only one that gets to carry around that M9, you kind of feel that little special entitlement thing. You kind of feel like a badass walking around with it holstered up to your side compared to everybody else, and everybody's kind of wanting to look at it and play with it and wishing they could go get their little M9 badge. And again, they may have switched that up for machine gunners as of recently, but the machine gunner kind of needs another weapon, and being able to carry around an M9 or something along those lines, instead of having to lug another M16 around, or even a foldable stock on an M4 carbine or something like that, just isn't practical, and you got to be able to get it out fast enough. So say if they did make you carry around an M4 carbine and you could fold the stock up and it's almost the size of a large pistol and you got it on your back, are you going to be able to get that off fast enough, unfold the stock, and all that other good stuff in time, compared to just reaching down, pulling your M9 out of your holster and blazing off some rounds in order to get out of dodge, or just kind of taking out the remainder of what you needed to take out? So it's one of those things, but you do feel like a badass with a little bit of extra entitlement compared to that. And like I said, now that they switched around it in the NCOs, staff NCOs, squad leaders, officers are probably carrying around M4 carbines now, it may be a little different the way it looks. And there are specific M9s that were made for the Army and the Air Force officers, and they look a little different. They got black grips. They're a little bit more polished up. And they kind of get that little bit more flashy look. It's no different than, staff NCOs being able to carry a sword in certain situations compared to, corporal and below, or I shouldn't say corporal and below, but other Marines, you're not able to carry a sword up until a certain rank. So, it's one of those things. But the M9 is a really, really reliable weapon. It doesn't have the oomph of some of the other pistols out there. Like, we did a few tests on a flak jacket with and without steel plates. Now, with steel plates, the M9 didn't get through anything. With steel plates, they happened to get one round out of 25 rounds we shot into the flak jacket. Actually went through the flak jacket without steel plates. So it's one of those things. But again, a lot of third world countries and all this, their militaries aren't using flak jackets. They're not using body armor. You're just cutting through a little bit of cloth or whatever they happen to have on at the time. And so we really don't need something more powerful. As time goes on and militaries become more advanced, and you see a lot more third world countries maybe coming into some sort of alliance with much more world powers, and they start to get more body armor, they start to kind of get up to our standards as in the U.S. military, there might be a bit of an issue, and they might have to come with something a little bit more, or they might just have to upgrade the rounds to, say, armor-piercing rounds, hollow point rounds, and so on and so forth. And the NATO restrictions kind of need to be relaxed, because that's one thing that I've never understood as far as, the laws of war. It's war. There is no laws. Certain countries can do this because they don't fall under the UN sanctions. Certain countries can't do that because they do. And it's just one of those crazy things. But that's pretty much the M9. You get limited exposure to it as a machine gunner, and you're not going to screw around with it too much unless you're the gunner. And then once you go up to team leader, you lose the rights to be able to carry around your M9. And then possibly when you go up to squad leader, you may still use the M9 according to what unit you're in. But from the looks of it and from what I'm reading, you probably might have an M4 carbine, and that gives you that little bit, maybe that little bit of entitlement. We did get to play around with the M4 carbine a little bit when I was up in Alaska. They were just starting to introduce them. They were doing a lot of tests on them. They had like 4 or 5 different companies up there doing the different tests with the different attachments and kind of going from there. And then after that, I never really heard anything about it, because when I got out, we really didn't have any of them implemented, at least in my unit in the Marine Corps. So that's what I got for you guys this week. I do apologize for it taking so long. It kind of, I accidentally threw all this out. I had a freaking excellent video put together. So I'm going to throw some MS Paint up on this bad boy and get going, and hopefully we can just keep going with the M16, the Mark 80, the 50 cal, and just kind of go from there. If there's any weapons out there you guys want me to research and kind of look up and get some videos on, let me know. So that's what I got for you guys this beautiful Monday. And as always, keep your heads up. Have a great day. Peace. What's up, everybody? I just want to let you guys know you can hit up my Tales of Grace's F playthrough over on Tour de Force or on a playlist on my page. If you missed my last Military Monday episode, feel free to click the link up there. Also, if you see what you guys like, hit that subscribe button. Go over and check me out on Justin TV, Twitter, and Facebook. Go over and say hi at Viso Gamer and the VidThrough pages. I hope to see you guys there soon. And as always, keep your heads up. Have a great day. Peace.